Next up, we're going to look at our player tile type. So I'm going to select on the player tile type. I'll go to the assign tile type. And then let's move on down to our play options, our player. I'm going to select on this one. That loads up all the properties over here that are available to the player. And again, there are quite a number of properties. That's why we try to make it so that when you get started, by default it works. We'll take a look at a couple settings that we'll adjust. So name, we'll just call him our hero. This will just be our player character. When we get into our general settings, we want him visible inside the game. The image offset, right now it's at 0. That should be fine for us. The frames per second, how quickly do we want the frames to go? I'm going to bump this down to about 6 frames per second. Our thumbnail, let's see. We should have one that's actually called thumbnail. There we go. We'll select on that one, and that'll be what gets displayed again inside of Build a Game in the tray there. And then we have our rotation and scale. The character is actually just fine at the default scale. On the collider, we don't want a collider on the character, so we're going to turn that one off. When we get into the filtering, we're going to set him to a point. On the offset, I'm going to clamp it. We don't care about the infinite UV for this character unless we want him tiled all the way across. And our pivot point, again, we're at the center, so that works just fine. So what we want to get into is the character controller that goes around him so that we can set that up. And we may check in Build a Game first just to see where that's at and then make the adjustments back and forth. So beyond that, let's take a look at making sure our character is set up so that when we get started, the controller is assigned to it and the player character is set up to be the first thing that gets used. So as we go down, we're going to see a player and controller. We're going to enable this player because this could be an AI-driven character or a player-driven character, or it may be something that turns on later in the game. If this is something that the player is going to start with, we can just enable it right in the beginning. We can set the joystick ID so that if we want this to be a co-op experience and we want this to go ahead and set up to be a different joystick, we can set it up here. We'll leave it at the default 0. Joystick type, 8 directional. That'll work just fine. General settings, character is a user setting. These are the type of basic features that we're going to want in there. And some things that are still being worked on down there. Gravity right now, because it's a side scroller game, we do want gravity, so that's going to push him back down. We'll leave it on that. We could adjust the gravity in that section if we wanted to. We can also reverse gravity and controls. You could match the angle and set up the properties for that if you wanted to. The falling, you can add extra speed on the fall and hurt amounts. And set the player starting direction. So right now the starting direction would be 0 is going to be pointing up. This would be at a 45 to the right, and then this would be just always to the right. You could also idle always left and right, or always idle up and down if you wanted to. If you wanted to add in a shadow type, you could add in a shadow. We don't really need that one for this guy. On the lives, we could set unlimited lives. We're going to leave them at 3. When we get down to here, we have our character controller, and this is when we try to set up the box, the little capsule that goes around him that moves this character around. We'll see that when we get inside of Build a Game. These are some of the features that will eventually move into this space so that you can see those adjustments and see what you're working on as you go. Right now, you have to bounce back and forth between Build a Game. The one option in here, though, is walk through characters, so that if you want him to pass through other characters, you can always set that one up there. And what else do we have in here that we want to look at? The other things that we have are going to be his move speeds and his run speeds. We can change those up in here. We'll go ahead and leave all these as defaults. Test them out first, and then see what kind of adjustments we want to make. All right, and then as you go through, you'll notice that you've got your move idles, you're sliding, you're climbing, you're crouching, you're flying, you're hanging, you're jumping. Lots and lots of different things to set up. You also have your effects down here so that you can set up extra effects that can be added to your animation, smoke puffs when he runs or when he jumps in the air or those types of things. All right, that gets us going for this character. We'll go ahead and leave it at that, and then we'll test him out inside a Build-A-Game and see how it looks from there.